says, "You heard it said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, be good to those who despitefully use you, bless those who curse you, and all that stuff." Right?
Right.
So you with me? Okay. So now look at the words that are being used here. You heard it said, da 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 da. But I say to you, da 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 da. So I ask Christians, right? Okay, when Jesus is saying you heard it said, who is he referring to who said that?
He referring to the God of the Old Testament.
Yeah, which means he's referring to himself since he
Mm.
is God.
Right. Yeah. If
But
you
he's
believe
saying
that. Yeah.
right, but he's saying it as, you heard it said, like you heard. You disappeared there.
Now you can go ahead. I'm just doing this.
Okay, he said you heard it said as if you heard somebody along the way in the street, some passerby, make mention of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But then we take it back to the Old Testament, and that's exactly who said it. Like you said, God. God said these things, and he's making it seem like, oh, it was just some old guy, maybe it was Moses or one of Moses' associates who said, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But it was him himself. But then he says, but but I say to you, but I say to you. So, where is the if he's saying, if it's going back to him being the initial uh speaker of these words, saying, hey, this is what was said, but then he's saying, but I say to you, doesn't that in some significant way uh make it sound like he's not the same person who said it initially? Since
Yeah,
he's
but he.
saying you heard this, but I'm saying to you this.
Yeah.
So that's like saying, well, I didn't really say that to begin with.
Yeah, you saying
So I'm
something
not
different.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not God.
But he said that all the words that he spoke was not his. He said they came from the Father.
Mm. So the Father would be contradicting himself.
Yeah, I speak none. What he say? I speak none of that is of myself. All came from the Father.
Yeah.
But see, in the Old Testament, I don't even think it calls God or Yah Yahuwah the Father. Like that's a New Testament construct. I
Oh,
don't think it's the
glad
Old
you made
Testament.
that brought that up. Glad you
Yeah.
brought that up. So when Jesus is saying the Father, who he's actually referring to is Abraham, because Abraham is the father of the Jews.
Oh yeah.
Remember remember the parable he gives about the rich man and Lazarus we was talking about last night?
Yeah.
And they was Lazarus was in the bosom of Abraham. Abraham's high
Right.
father.
Right.
Now, the Gnostic Marcion of Sinope, he taught that the God of the Old Testament was not the same God or Father of Jesus from the Gospels. And that's why he referred to the God of the Old Testament being the demiurge. Okay? Meaning that he was the basically the creator of this world, but he was inferior to the high God, the God who was the creator of the God who created the world, the
Is that
demiurge.
is that L?
I'm not sure if you would L. L is a Canaan
Oh, okay.
that gets basically hijacked from the Canaan and becomes Elohim, the gods in Hebrew, in the Hebrew Old Testament. But here's another 4:4, which is supposed to be a Pauline epistle. He says the God of this age has blinded their eyes so they can't see the truth of the light of the gospel. Well, remember back in Isaiah, God said, I know no other gods. There are no other gods. No gods were created before me or after me. I know no other gods. Right?
Yep.
So 2 Corinthians 4:4 would be a contradiction of that idea that there are no other gods, since it's stating that the God of this world has blinded their eyes. So Christians will say that Satan that he's talking about. But Satan's not a god, right? So it's actually referring to what I'm talking about, which is a Gnostic concept that the God of this world is an inferior God to the high God, who is you know, the biggest guy on the block.
Yeah.
He's a loving God. And he's the God of Jesus Christ, not the God.
But in one of the gospels, I think it's in Mark, it says that God blinds. It said he blinds the heart. He hardens the hearts, or something, where so the people can't believe and turn. I forget what scripture it is, but you got God blinding people too, hardening people's hearts, so they can't hear and
Well,
they
that's
can't
Second
believe.
Corinthians. Yeah, that's 2 Corinthians 4:4. He blinds the
No, no,
eyes
no.
of the.
Yeah, that's talking
It
about
says,
Satan,
"For
but
the
I'm
God of
talking
this
about
world."
yeah, that's talking about Satan, but I'm talking about where God is blinding people's minds, not Satan. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So,
that's what I'm saying. It's not actually talking about. That's what I'm saying. It's not actually talking about Satan. Christians mistake
oh,
it
okay,
and say
okay.
that that's talking about Satan, but it's really talking about the devil. Because you got to understand that the Pauline epistles uh, come from a Gnostic source, which is Marcion. Marcion was the guy who introduced the Pauline epistles to the Catholic Orthodoxy.
Right.
So that's why Paul never speaks of anything that Jesus did on earth. He never speaks birth
Virgin birth,
or
none of that.
Jesus's mother, Mary. He never talks about any of those things. He speaks about Jesus being crucified, but you got to understand also that these people are also redacting these supposed epistles, and they're not really epistles. They're not really letters to anyone, posing as letters. I'm talking into my mic right down here, so
Yeah.
um, but are you aware of the Old Testament passage where God talks about taking responsibility in Isaiah for blind eyes, lame legs, and all that, deaf ears, the mute? Are you there's a see if I can find it here.
Yeah.
It's in Isaiah.
That's the verse that Jesus used to prove that he was the one that was fulfilling all of this. These, when John the Baptist, when
Um,
they came to him and asked, "Was you the one?"
well, yeah. Well, see, he's saying that he heals all those things, but what is God essentially doing? Okay, yeah. There's the one here in Isaiah 42 where it says to open the blinds, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. But there's a different passage here that let me see if it's got to be here somewhere.
To turn his
You
life.
can never, even with all these goddamn post-its I have in my Bibles, still can't ever find anything when I have to find it on the drop of a dime, which aggravates the hell out of me, man. Let me see. Where the hell is that passage at? The other thing is sometimes I use so many different Bibles that sometimes I don't have shit marked in the Bible I'm using.
Yeah, but Jesus,
No, it's
Jesus
here.
wasn't the only one that did miracles anyway. It's people that in the Old Testament that did miracles as well.
That is true. Fuck is that at?
So what makes your miracle so greater than, you know what I'm saying, than what others did before you?
Yeah. There's there's
He said
well,
he
there's no.
outdid. He outdid everybody else. He said, if I hadn't done the works that no other man has done, really, let's
Yeah,
examine
no
it.
other, no other.
Then they want
Well,
to have.
actually, if you look at all the supposed miracles of Paul, uh, Paul outdoes Jesus in every way.
Hmm, really,
Paul outdoes Jesus. Paul outdoes Jesus in every fashion, man. He outdoes him. He
well, Paul did say that. Yeah, he said, I worked harder than all the disciples. Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, there's so many contradictions between Galatians and Acts and the Pauline conversion on the road to Damascus and all that stuff too. Uh, one in Acts it says that Paul was immediately after his conversion he went into Jerusalem and he communed with all the apostles and they were all together there in Jerusalem and he was speaking in the synagogues. But when you read Galatians, Paul's supposed own recollection of the events that took place in the road to Damascus conversion, um, he says the complete difference, something totally different. He says he went into Arabia in the desert for 3 years, and he didn't go to Jerusalem at all. And he didn't confer with any of the apostles. Matter of fact, he said they had nothing to add to me. They couldn't tell me nothing because I had a revelation from Jesus Christ himself. And he came and told me what the deal was. I didn't need to talk to Peter about Jesus. Jesus appeared to me himself,
Yeah,
which is funny because if you go back to John, the last gospel, John, in there, when you have doubting Thomas who comes in and he has to see Jesus risen and he has to put his hands into his side and the holes in his hands. And he finally does that and he believes because he sees and up those very next guy uh, to him bleed.
breaking up a little bit.
Does
Breaking up.
the this line which read orally in
You was
Greece,
breaking up.
the kind of like an Olympic writing.
You was breaking up.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
why.
break. Yeah.
You can hear me?
Yeah, you broke up for about a minute, about two
Sorry.
minutes.
There's a part of damn. Yeah, I don't know what the hell. I don't know that. Why? What's the cause of that? You think?
I don't know, but I'm gonna connect it to my. I mean, tonight I connected to my Wi-Fi. I mean, my maybe the Wi-Fi helped though. Uh, when I connected to my Wi-Fi
Okay.
on my internet, home internet.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on it. You rip